everyone, you're listening to the Tea with Tanya podcast, and I'm your host, Tanya Ambrose. I'm a public health professional by day and your average tea-loving millennial and content creator by night. My goal for this podcast is to share public health stories, self-love and wellness tips to educate and empower and to promote positive living. This podcast is here to serve you. Join me in the tea tasting room to see what I have brewing for you. Hey, welcome back to Tea with Tanya, and I'm your host, Tanya. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Thank you for supporting the podcast. It does not go without notice. I am grateful every time someone tunes in and leave a review or send feedback. It is appreciated. As we wrap up the mindfulness series, I did not know how this was going to go, guys, and I am proud of what I'm doing thus far. It has kept me on my toes. It has pushed me to be consistent and put out great content for you guys. So I'm finding a rhythm now. So I'm excited for that. But to wrap up the mindfulness series, I'm joined by someone very near and dear to my heart, another friend that I met on social media. And if you've been listening to previous episodes with my previous guests, you've come to understand that I have met all of them on social media and we've taken the relationship off of social media. But I met her. She became somewhat of a mentor to me as it relates to my career in public health, as it relates to reading, because she's an avid reader. We call her the lit lady. She is the lit lady, but definitely someone who I confide in or I reach out to when it comes to advice in the public health world as far as career goes. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about intentional career planning and how mindfulness can support you during your career changes. This is going to be a good episode. It was a candid conversation with Amber, and I'm looking forward to you guys listening to it. But before we get into today's episode, I am going to share the affirmation of the week. And this one I think is fitting. This week's affirmation is, I am committed to being focused on my goals. Isn't that fitting, guys? I think that's a really good affirmation for the week, given the title of today's episode. Be sure to click the link in the show notes to subscribe to the newsletter and to sign up for the mini mindfulness worksheet. It's in the show notes. Be sure to get it down. It's free. It's a simple mini worksheet / guide to guide you so you can become more mindful. You can start your mindfulness journey. So let's get into today's episode. Well, hello there, Amber. How are you?
I am well. How's it going?
I'm good. You're just looking so beautiful. Guys, I know you can't see her, but she is looking beautiful in some red lipstick. Hair is all down. I'm just jealous here, hoping I can get to her length because I just joined a lot family one day.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I put this lipstick on 5 seconds ago.
No, see, I wasn't that dedicated today. Well, thank you for finally being here on Tea with Tanya. It's been a long time coming, but my mantra is nothing happens before it's time. So we're finally making it happen, and I'm looking forward to talking to you because you're one of my favorite persons that I've met on social media. And guys, like I always say, social media isn't always bad. Amber has been a light. She is a light in general, but she has been a light in my life. I know I've told that before, but I'm telling her again so the world can see and hear that she is a light. So I'm happy to have you here. So tell our people a little bit about yourself.
Oh goodness, it's a loaded question. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Amber, born and raised in Atlanta. I start with that when I don't have a job interview. Like, tell me about yourself, on the podcast versus the job interview. Two totally different things.
Yes, definitely.
So I'll just do the layperson's way today. Born and raised in Atlanta, Southern girl for life. I am an epidemiologist by trade. That's my 9 to 5. I love it. I live it. I breathe it. It's amazing. I am just taking up space as a multi-passionate individual, I guess, is kind of where I am. And I've been there for many years. So, yeah, I'm just your favorite bougie, Southern, multi-passionate princess who likes to eat. And, yeah, that's me.
all about the quality life. She, Amber was doing soft life before soft life became this trend on social media. I don't even know why we call it soft light, but she's a light. She's colorful. She was doing it before it became trendy on social media.
We
But
try. We try.
that's all we can do. That's all we can do. But I do want to ask, what led you to your profession, or how did your upbringing influence, what profession you chose? Because in the Black community, we had to be like a doctor, lawyer. There were just certain stipulations that we had to back in the day growing up. So, what led you to public health and epidemiology
Oh
in
yeah.
particular?
So what had happened was, basically, okay. So coming up, I came up a lot different than a lot of people, and everyone says that, but I find that I don't believe it when most people say it. I only believe it when I say it. So I grew up in a very, I guess people would call it strict. Some people probably call it strict. Again, a lot of folks say that too, but they don't understand. I was not allowed to watch TV on weekdays. I could not listen to music. I couldn't listen to any secular music except for Saturday and Friday night. I couldn't go on the internet on the weekdays. I couldn't do anything. No TV, no internet, no music.
In the weekday?
Any weekday. Only on
Oh
Friday
my
night.
goodness.
Correct.
Okay.
Only on Friday nights and Saturdays. That was it. So Sunday through Thursday, there was none of that at all. No
Oh.
media. And so to entertain myself, we had access to the Encontra, computer encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
And to entertain myself, I remember I would either write stories, because we did have a computer. So I'd either write stories on Microsoft Word or whatever the software was back in the 90s and early 2000s. I would either do that, or I would look up diseases on the Encontra encyclopedia. And that was literally how I entertained myself. If I wasn't playing outside or reading a book, I was writing stories or looking up diseases and symptoms of those diseases, and who gets these diseases and how to treat these diseases. And that's literally between the ages of 7 until like 12. That's how I entertained myself, because there was no TV.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've been really interested in and curious about human ailments for many, many years. And my upbringing, I'd be crazy to say that it had no bearing on my interest in those things. So, yeah.
That's interesting. It's funny you say that. We all think, oh, we had strict parents, but then we realize. I mean, our level of strict is different than somebody else's level of strict, and then that's why you turn. That's why you turn out to be this amazing person. You're in public health. So from the ages of 7 to 12, you were researching different diseases. I don't want to say I've never heard that, because I know for me growing up, I used to play like I was a doctor with my cousins. So we would like put our little stuffed animals in our little shirts.
Like Doc McStuffins.
Yes, we were like push. What do we? I don't know what we were thinking then. But now that I'm seeing like what birth really is, we had no idea what. So you were googling and researching. We were watching the TV and trying to think that we were doctors and put it in stitches. So I guess not really bad. And I think sometimes our children today, let me just sidetrack here. Sometimes I think that's lacking, because growing up, I didn't have access to all the technology either, but I had a bunch of cousins and we were just always playing something. Whether it was, we were riding bikes, we were just outside. And then when we came in, we had to read, we had to pray, all these different things. So it's just crazy to see how this generation is now. Everybody's just hooked to their tablets or electronic devices, and,
yeah,
it depends on what, now careers can just be from sitting in your bed or on your couch using your phone, which is not a bad thing either, but
it's not, but it's just different.
It's just different.
It's different.
So why did you choose public health? And for those listening who don't know what public health is, if you can just briefly, describe or explain what public health is and what do you do as it relates to epidemiology.
Sure. So oh my goodness. So I went to college actually to become a diplomat, a foreign diplomat. So despite my early interest in diseases in high school, I struggled a lot with math and science, and the teachers were really, really kind of antagonistic, and they were kind of telling me, oh, you should avoid anything dealing with math and science. And so I said, okay. So another thing I was really good at were foreign languages. I speak Spanish. I took many years of Japanese and French. And so I thought, okay, well, I can be a diplomat. So I went to college, hated all the coursework. I mean, hated it. I was falling asleep during I just didn't care. I did not care. Didn't like any of that coursework. I'm also not a very diplomatic person. So that's also, that can, I'm just being real. I know my strengths. So because of that, so I'm like, I don't want to do this. I can't work with the UN. They fired me. So I remember after my sophomore year of college, my mom and I were discussing, okay, so what's next? I don't like this career field. And she was saying, you know what, you've always been into diseases and you've always been into, just learning about those different things, why not study something in like community health or something within that? And so we were at a restaurant eating, and it basically got me down a rabbit hole. And so I think by junior year, I had kind of pivoted into public health. It was more global health because I still wanted to graduate in 4 years. So I married on global affairs, my old major, with public health, my newfound love, and went ahead into global health. So that's basically the beginning of where I started. And then I discovered epidemiology maybe in one of my classes my junior year. And yeah, it's been that ever since. So public health is basically when you look at the health of populations. So unlike medicine, where you're looking at individual health, individual behavior, healing individual sickness, public health involves caring literally for the public, for the population, whatever population means, at any given time. So I decided to do epidemiology, and it's been me and that for the past, goodness, 8 years.
It's interesting for me. When how I discovered public health was I was going to nursing school, failed out of nursing school. I was just trying to find a different way because in my mind I needed to be a nurse working in labor and delivery. After seeing my sister give birth to my niece when she was 20 weeks pregnant, but not knowing again that I can be of service in a different way. What I thought when I think about epidemiology, I'm thinking numbers, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I don't like math. I barely passed I did pass with a B, but still, it took me, I had to fight to get to that B. I wanted an A that semester, but I had to fight from where I was to get a B, okay? So we're going to keep that. But for those of us who don't know exactly what it means to be an epidemiologist, what can you tell us without, I guess, giving away too much or, what you do? Well, what does an epidemiologist do on a day-to-day basis, or how are they integral when it comes to public health? Because they're a big deal. We rely heavily on our epidemiologists in this society.
Yeah. Girl, I'll tell it all. I got time. So epi basically is the study of disease among populations. So basically, how I explain to my 9-year-old cousins is we study who gets sick, at what time within history are they getting sick, and why are these people getting sick and these people are not getting sick. So when you look at, various populations, if you look at lung cancer, and you're looking at, okay, so what are the characteristics of people who get lung cancer? Why are they getting lung cancer? What makes them more susceptible to lung cancer? Whether it's, genetic background, whether it is behavioral characteristics, whether it's demographic information, all of these factors, the basics of epidemiology is that there are a bunch of factors, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all of these factors are how some people end up getting sick and other people don't end up getting sick. And so at the bare bones definition, that would be epidemiology. Now, when you go to day-to-day operations as a working epidemiologist, of course, that can get a lot deeper. And I'm also willing to go down there, that if you'd like. So even that's a loaded question because it really depends on what industry you're in as an epidemiologist. So for me, I work for a health department. People who work for a pharmaceutical company, may have a whole different story. People working in contractual work for the federal government, that's going to be different. The CDC, there's going to be, a difference. But I do HIV epidemiology for a health department. So that looks like a lot of front-facing data where we are every single year putting out data on, okay, so who in the state of Maryland is getting sick? Why are they getting sick? Who's getting HIV? What types of people are more likely, who has the biggest risk of getting HIV? Whether you're talking about race, whether you're talking about age groups, whether you're talking about all the demographics, some sexual minorities, gender minorities, all those types of, so it's really a lot of information. It's a lot of data. And we work on that basically every year. And it's a lot of work, but I love it.
I'm glad you said that. It's a lot of work, but you love it. And that's how I feel with my job. But we'll get into that part before I get to that question. So what would you say is the most rewarding thing you've experienced, both academic and professionally thus far? Because I know you still, we're still young. We still got more waves and impact to make in this life. But what has been the most rewarding experience thus far?
During my academic or professional journey? Goodness. Yeah. I would say professional journey. One thing I really love doing especially as someone who I think a lot of people think that in epi, we just kind of sit in the back and crunch numbers all day. And that's, in my case, it couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm very fortunate, very blessed to every time I'm able to get out into the community and kind of present my work, present our data to the community and actually tell them, okay, so here is what we have, regarding HIV statistics in this county of Maryland or in this region or among these people. I love getting out and actually, presenting on our data and making it accessible to people who don't study epidemiology. It's probably my favorite thing to do. So basically, every time I get to go out and present and kind of share knowledge with lay people who don't study numbers all day long, I'd say that's probably my most rewarding aspect of my job.
It takes a lot to go out in the community because sometimes there's just people out here who genuinely don't know. And that's not a bad thing because we don't always know things that don't really interest us, but at the same time, these are things that we should know. Yeah. It doesn't hurt that we're out here in the community helping and making an impact in some small way. And I think that's what's most rewarding for me as well, being able to educate or let people know what's going on around them. Because to me, I can be naive sometimes because we work in public health and the news is just not, to me, not healthy for me. So I had to take a break from watching the news. So sometimes, my parents would be calling me asking, did you hear this? And I'm like, no, I did not. Or I may see something, on Twitter where, because, we get the news at very weird places now. I may see something and I just choose if I want to partake or even read that article. So it's important sometimes most times to go into the community and just explain to our community members what's going on so that they can be educated and know what's happening and without feeling that we're talking at them versus trying to, teach them.
Correct.
So kudos to you, because I thought, for me personally, I'm not gonna even lie, I just thought you guys were just there crunching numbers. And that was it.
No.
Even lie. I was like, what are you guys really doing? What exactly do we do?
Yeah, no, any opportunity I can get to get out in the community and get from behind that desk and actually go and talk to people, I love it. And I love when people have questions. I love talking to them about their questions and just really going there. I love it all.
Which brings me to a question when it comes to career planning, even in school as a undergrad in public health or even a grad student, which, hey, shout out guys, I'm about to start grad school in January of 2023. For someone, for me, because I always talk about my educational journey. So when I got my acceptance letter, I thought I was going to pass up because I knew it was going to come because I had a good feeling. You can just tell. I'm like, I went to school, I did all my work, I got good grades, got great letter of recommendations. I knew I was going to get into the school. But for some reason, again, after hearing so many no's, you're always on edge. And when I got that acceptance letter, it was the best thing to happen to me in 2022. But I remember being in nursing school, knowing what I wanted to be or why I wanted to be a nurse at the time. And then I filled out of the program. I was told, if you can't pass here, you got to wait 2 years and then, move to a new state. Got into a program only to be told, we did an audit on your transcripts. And after the audit, we just realized if you fail at that school, we don't think you'll be able to pass or be successful in other school. I was like, what the heck? I said, I would have called these people, did my research, told them about the situation, and they gave me the go ahead. And so I've just been rejected so many times. Yeah. And then I remember my aunt telling me about public health. Didn't really know what it was. You hear different things, but you just don't know what it is. And I had to do my research and I did my undergrad, getting ready to go to grad school. But for me, I was still trying to become a nurse, guys. I don't know how many more signs I needed to not become a nurse. Not because I wouldn't be a good nurse, but I just been rejected, been on wait lists for nursing programs. And I remember my reasoning the reason why I wanted to become a nurse at that point, which would have been up until 2021, 22, was because I wanted to have the credential so that I can take my nonprofit global and have the expertise without having to, because, people go across the globe. I'm from Antigua in the Caribbean. People try to, the saviors of the world without having the experience or the qualification. So that was my reason for wanting to become a nurse in recent times. But then I'm thinking to myself, my director of health education in my nonprofit, my very good friend, she's a doctor, an MD, and a professor. So why am I killing myself to become a nurse? One of our board of directors, she's a registered nurse. One of our other members, she just graduated med school. So why am I here putting myself through something that's not even in my heart, Amber, for me to, nursing was just not, it was no longer the number one thing I wanted to do. I found a job, moved to a new state, working in maternal health, loving what I'm doing. Of course, there's always room for improvement. Let me just put that in right there. But, I'm making so much stride, but that's because I became intentional. I got fired from my job in 2021 November, thinking, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to do?"
Mm-hmm.
Again, just being. I know I'm long-winded, but I'm getting to the point.
Girl, go ahead. I'm so proud of you. I want to hear it all. I want to hear it all.
And
Like,
I made a. The new year came, and I told myself, you know what? Why am I just applying to jobs in this one state? Why not try to branch out? You don't have any kids, you don't have anything that's
yeah.
tying you to this one state. Because I was adamant that I was gonna build a house, do everything in this one state, and I was like, let me try. I became more intentional with the jobs I was applying to. Because I'll be honest,
Yeah.
guys, and if you're listening to this, I was applying to jobs that were beneath me. And that may sound a little bit harsh. I don't know if beneath
No.
me is the right word, but when you graduate to a different level in your life, of course, you take different jobs here and there sometimes to make ends meet, or because you have no choice, or you're a college student with limited experience. But I'm like, I have all this experience from all these other jobs I used to do. Why am I limiting myself just for the sake of, oh, I need a job right away? I wasn't going to be hungry. I wasn't going to be homeless while
Yeah.
being unemployed. So why am I doing that? And I became intentional and I set a goal. I said, let me apply to nearby states. Let me apply to positions that I know I truly qualified for.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, of course, prayed and everything, and I got the job. Let me tell you, my sister, I was watching the video the other day. I was like, girl, why was I jumping the way I was? It was just so crazy. Well, my sisters, they're good at recording everything. So I guess my question, I say all that to say, is like, how can we, as young millennials or people listening to this, be intentional when it comes to the type of jobs or career path that we choose? Because for me, I went from I went for a business degree, getting a degree in liberal arts, going into nursing school, failing nursing school, even starting a respiratory therapist program, then deciding it wasn't for me. So, you know what, let me go to public health. And now I'm finding, I'm making strides in my career. And of course, there's room for improvement and these different things. That's because I was intentional. I made sure I had a clear plan. I don't know if the plan would have worked out. Maybe I would have a different conversation today, but it
Yeah.
did. And that's because even with being intentional, I prayed. I think, put my mind to it. There was nothing going to stop me from getting a job in that particular field, whether it was a job I have now or somewhere else. But there was nothing that was going to stop me from working in the field that I am now. So, what do we tell the people listening who are in a career rut, or they wanting to switch jobs, they want to switch career fields or career paths? How can we be intentional to ensure that we are setting ourselves up for success by finding the job or the career that we ultimately want for ourselves?
I say freaking do exactly what you did. I mean, like, just because you went through a lot of different, ideas of what you thought you wanted to do and maybe it didn't work out and you tried this and it didn't work out. I mean, that's what being young is for. I mean, now granted, some people, it's also fair to say that everyone doesn't have the opportunity to do that, right? But if you
Right.
do, I mean, explore it all. I mean, that's kind of what these years are for. And I mean, when I realized that I was not going to be a good diplomat, and then I pivoted into international law. And so
Mm-hmm.
I shadowed an international lawyer. And I remember at the end of that shadowing experience, at the end of the day, he told
Mm-hmm.
me, if you apply to law school, I'm going to burn your application. I
Oh,
said, what?
wow.
Excuse me? He said, yeah, I'm going to burn it. Do not do this, whatever you do. Like, I hate it here. I hate this job. I'm
Wow.
literally in this job so that my wife can, have her Lamborghini. But I no, seriously, no, like he
That's
was
real. That's real.
he was miserable, and I was shadowing a Black international lawyer, and I was like, dang, like I want this to be me, and like we were in,
Mm-hmm.
just in the big city and having a great time. Yeah, he was miserable the whole time, and so I remember I went home and called my boyfriend. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, because diplomacy wasn't working out, international law wasn't working out, and then
So what's next?
yeah, so it turns out I knew what I wanted the whole time, but because people in high school told me not to do it, then I was, kind of keeping
Mm.
away from it. But again, I was 21. Oh no, I was 20. My bad. I was 20. And basically I was already failing forward. So let's just, take it all
Hey,
the way there.
that is the word, failing forward. I remember
Yeah.
writing the blog post on that. Sometimes we look at failure, and I think that's what I did for a long period of time. We look at failure as the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like I became depressed, and I was like, okay, that's it. There's nothing else I can do. There's
Yeah.
no other career path. So this is the one for me. And and after a while, you give yourself time to really sit and reflect. Again, this is
Yeah.
not saying that everybody's path or journey is going to be the same, but you have to. I think for me, you have to know what you want for yourself. I think for me, I'm
Correct.
resilient. I'm ambitious. Nothing or no one. I don't care who you are. is going to stop me from achieving what I want to. It may take me, I think for me at the time, I was looking at my age and, oh, I'm getting so old. I had to really relinquish myself from all of that. I said, girl, age is just a number. It literally is. And it's never too late. And my mantra in life is nothing happens before it's time. And now here I am, and getting ready to go to grad school, confident in the career path that I've chosen. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
ma'am.
Like, it's just good. So I definitely want our listeners to know that it's okay to pivot. I know if anything, COVID-19 definitely
Yeah.
taught everyone or majority of the people how to pivot and go into a different career. We know we have more work from home jobs. We have people are transferring into tech or all these different things that some didn't even know was possible.
Yeah.
I saw someone on Twitter saying that they were a UGC content creator or something and they were making some amount of money. And I decided to Google this. I thought I knew stuff about content. I didn't know what that was. But obviously, you basically get paid to tweet about products or brand, like if it's coming from you authentic. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, so I just didn't even, she's making, she said 70K. And I said, wow, it's again, careers are different now. You can sit on the bed, you can sit in you can fly across the globe
Yep.
and still definitely achieve or work the job that you want to create for yourself. And we talk about creating opportunities for ourselves. But definitely, guys, let me tell you, my road here has been so bumpy. I didn't even know I was going to get here. I mean, I knew I was going to. I just didn't know when. Let me take that back because I knew I was going to get to a point where I was going to be seeing success and seeing abundance, and it's because I just became intentional with the types of job I wanted or what I was going to apply to. I wasn't applying to just anything just because it was a job. Like I've asked people, I said, "What job are you looking for?" Just to see. Oh, I just need a job to pay my bills. I said, okay, we do need to pay our bills. There's nothing against that. But then
Yeah.
are you aspiring to be, being a career that you love? Because sometimes many of us have had jobs that we absolutely don't like. Like
Yeah.
I've had a job that I've had to wake up. The commute was like an hour and a half. And
Oh
I
my.
had to wake up. I mean, it wasn't that bad, well, to me. But I had to get up extra early to beat the Atlanta traffic because we know it's ridiculous morning
Yeah.
and afternoon.
Yeah. I
And
remember.
it became a point where I'm calling out for more. And I'm a person, I don't like to call, I don't like to be late because I grew up, my dad always instilled, being punctual, being this, don't be late, respect people's time. So, you get upset when you were younger. Oh, well, we got to be on time. Why we got to go to school on time. And then when you get older, these same principles, follow you along through your
Yes.
life. And I remember just calling out, just not wanting to go to work. And then when I got my new job that I have currently, I was commuting almost 4 hours to and from because I hadn't moved yet. I hadn't moved as yet, but I was determined to get this job because it was a dream job.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Which meant I had to get up at like 4 in the morning
Whew.
or leave home at 4 in the morning just to get to my job on time for 8:30. I was doing that too, and I was doing that from. And let me tell you, I did not complain one time, guys.
Yeah.
I did not complain about getting up early, about getting home, and only thing I can do is eat dinner and go to bed so I can get a good night's sleep to get up again. And I didn't complain. And of course, I had to move because gas prices were really, really high back in, 2022 was a wild year with gas.
Yeah.
So I was like, I needed to move and I just needed a different change. And again, it just comes down to being mindful of the people you have around you. Because sometimes, believe it or not, the people that you have around you can affect the type of jobs or what you do, the decisions you make when it comes to your career. So that's all I'm gonna say. I do want to ask you, Amber, because I can go on and on and on, and we will be here until next week, next episode. But I do want to ask, how can us? Because I know you had a blog post a while back about, well, of course, being multi-passionate, which we'll talk about that. But then also, how can we, as women of color, how can we create more opportunities for ourselves, even within our current jobs or just in general? You think, as it relates to having a career, maybe a side hustle, like how can we create different opportunities for ourselves without having that imposter syndrome, taking over? Because that's real.
It is real. Oh goodness, that's a loaded question.
I'm just asking you a lot of loaded questions, honey.
Yeah. Ciao. Okay. One thing my parents did a really good job instilling in me is being well-rounded. And I think that's why I've always naturally fought against this whole, oh, you have to pick one niche and just do that one thing until you're dead. And then when you're dead, you have to do it some more. Like, it's just like, it's not something I ever really related to. And so because I have so many interests, if they're really things you're interested in, it doesn't feel like much time is passing when you take time to really learn about these things and get good at them. And you kind of become a polymath of sorts, where you have a lot of things you're good at, a lot of things you could potentially make money from. And it's usually things that just come naturally to you. I remember when I was maybe 19 or 20 and I was actually going to pay some money to become a graphic designer. And my mom is like, you're doing all this extra stuff and wasting all this money. You've always been an amazing writer. How come you're not writing?
Uh-huh.
Read me for filth, but I needed to hear that. I mean, like,
As
it's
she
usually
should.
things. Yeah. Now, that's one thing she'll do. She'll read you. But it's something that I think we all kind of need to hear. It's usually something that you can make money from as a side hustle is usually something that you do every day without thinking about it. And you're really quick to kind of just put it down like, oh, well, any idiot can do that. Or, oh, I mean, a monkey can do this. I mean, this is really easy. And you don't value it. But just because you think it's easy doesn't mean that everyone else does. And that's usually where your golden ticket lies, for lack of a better word. It's usually your side hustle is usually something you do every day or at least a few times a week that people ask you for. They ask you questions about it. They consult you for things and you just do it mindlessly. And that's the magic.
And to piggyback from that now, as it relates to sabotage in our career, because you had a blog post again about you spoke about ways you were sabotaging your career. So you can probably you can speak to that experience, like what you experienced and why you thought that, and then maybe you can tell us how are we possibly could whoever's listening maybe end up having the same story, a similar story like you, but how can we possibly sabotage our career and how can we, undo that or try to not even let it get to that point?
Sure. So I hope I answer this properly. So on the blog post, I had 3 main ways in which I felt I was, sabotaging my career. I know one of them was multitasking. Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest one. And that's honestly because, like, my soul knows no rest. Like,
listen,
my mind, something is always going through my head. I have a constant internal dialogue. She does not shut up. I'll be working on something diligently, and then all of a sudden my brain is like, no, don't forget to do this. And I'll switch what I'm doing, which I was working on so ever diligently, and I'll switch and work on something else. And then my brain's like, no, go back to this. And it's literally me doing that for hours and hours. And so basically when you do that, you end up doing a half-baked job on several things instead of just doing a good job from having a one-track mind.
That is a word.
Yeah. So like multitasking, and people can say, oh yeah, well, I do a good job at it. No, you don't. No, you don't. It's something where maybe more menial tasks, like, okay, you can wash dishes and listen to a podcast, right? But when you're at work, especially in epidemiology, when you're doing, very public facing work and where everyone is looking at your data or everyone is looking at something you wrote, it doesn't hurt to just concentrate on one thing at a time and give yourself maybe 45 minutes to dedicate solely to that and then, move on to something else. And so multitasking is a huge one. And I've got more, but you look like you're going to say something.
No, for me, I think, I was going to say, I need something to help me with the multitasking. I can't multitask, but somehow I find my way doing it when I'm at work. I cannot even talk and text at the same time. It's ridiculous. I can't even text and listen to somebody talking to me. That's how bad at multitasking I am. But whenever I'm at work, my brain just, let me think about this podcast episode. Or let me think about something from a nonprofit. Or, this is what I'm going to do. Like I created yesterday while I was at work, I created a whole different program for my doula business. And I'm like, girl, I started doing some data entry for something. Forgot I was doing that because my brain told me to do something else. And then I started writing in my little notebook. And then I ended up being behind on my work because I forgot that I was doing said situation at the time.
Yeah. No, I totally get
so I think for me, I told myself, going forward, I'm going to have to, like you said, do time block. I used to use this app. I forgot the name. Like I used to put it on my phone and every 20 minutes, like, it'll give me a break in like 20-minute intervals. I think it was. I forgot.
Pomodoro? Was it the Pomodoro method? Yes, I do that too. And that's helped me a lot.
I'm going to have to go back to that because let me tell you, my brain, it does a lot. And then it takes away from work. And I am somewhat an overachiever. So, you never want your boss coming to tell you, oh, I see this mistake or because sometimes they know your level of work.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to avoid multitasking while at work. Guys, I know it's hard. I know sometimes, things come to our mind. You can just jot it down and come back to it at a later time. But when you're at work, you're at work. Because let me tell you. It just provides other stress that we just don't have time for. We're trying to level up. We're trying to, live a stress-free life. We don't want work to stress us. We don't want anything else,
Correct.
to stress us.
I think one thing that really helped me with quitting all that multitasking was so I am a very religious fanatic when it comes to writing things in my planner. But
Oh
not only
yes.
that, but I create my day into so if I'm working 8 hours a day, on average, I have 2 hour blocks. So 2 hours to dedicate to this, 2 hours to that, 2 hours to that. And
Oh.
within those 2 hours, I use the Pomodoro method. So that means I'm working for 45 minutes and resting for 15 minutes. So that's 1 hour gone right there. The next hour, I'm working for 45 minutes, resting for 15 minutes. That's 2 hours right there. And so after that, I can do whatever I want. And then, within those 15 minutes, I can get up and dance around. I can make a list or a brain dump or do whatever, thing that was gnawing at my attention, while I was working. But yeah, the 2 hour blocks and using the Pomodoro method actually does work for me. And people have mixed opinions on Pomodoro, but
No,
it
I
works
have
for
it.
me. Yeah.
And the times that I've used it, it has worked. And I'm glad you said that because the topic for this series, because this is going to be the last episode in this series when we're talking about mindfulness. So,
Yeah.
Being that you're seeing that everything is in your planner, you're using the Pomodoro method, you're working for 45 minutes. So you're solely concentrating on your tasks at hand. And then
Correct.
you're taking that 15-minute break. And I think that really encapsulates the series of being mindful because for me, if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen.
Correct.
And I'm a planner girl too. And I remember when the pandemic started, I'm like, what am I planning? What am I writing? Because I was getting ready to finish school. I wasn't necessarily using my planner, but then I realized my life was also falling apart because if I don't write it, it's not going to happen. And it sounds dramatic, but it is true. Like I am a firm believer. If I do not write something down, I'm not going to commit it to memory. It's not
Same.
going to happen. And it's different for me than putting a reminder in my phone. Again, that's just where the reminder is going to remind me, yes, but if I put something in my notes without a reminder, it's not going to commit to my memory. I have to physically write with a pen in a book or on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Most likely, it's my book or my planner. So I'm happy that you mentioned that because we got to be mindful with our time.
Yes, we do.
That's one thing. And a goal for me is to better manage my time as it relates to work and everything else that I have going on. But before we
You're
wrap
already
up, because
doing it.
I got a few questions to ask you still, but I do want to ask you, what do you think, how important it is for us to seek mentorship? Those, let's say, who was in grad school, get ready to go to grad school or graduating, get ready to go into the career. Even if you're in your career, how important do you think it is for us to have like mentorship so we can advance in our career? Like, is that a thing? Are people still doing that? Is just what are we calling people who do that? Kiss ass? I don't know. They say people who because sometimes you try to meet people so that you can, have some guidance like you are to me. Like technically, I'm probably your mentee. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we calling these people? Because there's always everything. Again, we're not living for social media, but it's always a term for somebody who's trying to advance. Oh, you're doing too much. So, but how important it is for one to seek mentorship? Should they not, as it relates to advancing academically, and also professionally?
Well, first of all, we're co-mentors because if I'm your mentor, you're my mentor as well. So we're co-mentor mentee. That's us. Second of all, I always try and choose my words really carefully with this. So I think a lot of people, I don't know why, I noticed that especially in our community where people kind of make it seem like they won't be successful unless they have a tried and true, keenly defined mentor mentee relationship. And I don't buy that at all. I think a lot of people use mentorship as a crutch. And I think
Right.
that they use it because they're afraid of making their own mistakes. And so they want someone to they want to sit under someone and get all the right answers because they're afraid to go out and, live their own life and make their own mistakes. And that's frankly what I believe. Do I think there's a place for mentorship? Yes, of course. But I'll be honest, my mentors, the three mentors I have right now in my head, I've never once asked them, will you be my mentor, please? Like, I've never ever done that.
Yeah.
They're just people who have poured into me. They've either sponsored me in some way or they've poured into me. We've never once had a mentor mentee conversation, but they are, whether they know it or not, they are my mentors. So I think the importance of really getting out there and networking with people is, yes, finding people, like-minded people who, either share your values or share your long-term goals for success, or they're people who are already in that field and you really feel you can learn something from. You don't have to go and become their sycophant and beg them to, mentor you. You
Yeah.
can if you want to, but you're not going to crash and burn if that person is not your mentor. You're allowed to get to know different people and just, they provide value to you, you provide value to them, and y'all grow together. I mean, that's really the best way I can put it. I'm not someone who believes that you won't be successful unless you have someone giving you all the answers. I just, no.
I agree. And it just comes back to being mindful of who you have, as we say, in your circle.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who are positive, who can uplift you. Because I can't sit here and say, oh, I have a mentor, but I refer to them as that, but I never ask them again to be a mentor. I network while in school, and I have a professor that, him and his wife, they were having a baby. I was invited to the baby shower. It'd be simple things.
Yeah.
But I remember going to him when I was in my last year of undergrad. I was like, this is what I want to do. I need some help. As I've taken every single class that you've taught that I had to take, and you've somehow end up being my professor all the time. So it's a sign, And went to him and I said, this is what I want to do with my life. And he literally drew up a 5-year plan, of course, with my input for me. And that's how I ended up venturing into maternal health full time, because everything that he would ask me, it just came back down to maternal health. You, Amber, during that time, you would want to tell me, have you ever heard about a doula? I did not, never knew what a doula was. And I think I came to you telling you something. I remember, and you was like, you should look into becoming a doula. You sent me the page. I forgot. You probably don't remember this.
I remember. No, I do remember, actually.
I forgot whose page you sent me to. But anyway, you provided the tools for me again, and everything that he's laid out. I mean, it hasn't been 5 years yet, but there have been some things that has happened for me, and I keep in touch with him. I've given speeches in his different classes, and So again, it's just about networking and really being intentional on what you want for your life. And I know I'm saying the word intentional and mindful over and over, but for me, I think that's why I am living an abundant life now.
That's what it is, though. I mean, like the 3 people in my head right now who are considered like, my mentors, correct. Like, I never asked them to be my mentor, but they've poured into me to the point where I wouldn't be where I am today without, to some extent, their guidance and their knowledge and them really kind of helping point me in the right direction. So in finding those people took intentionality. It took me dedicating an evening to writing them a letter or saying, hey, I can help you with this, or asking them for something, or just the list goes on. But it does take intentionality. But again, I didn't have to hunt them down and beg them to, be my mentor. So it's.
As we wrap up, you mentioned earlier, and I know this because I follow you and you're my girl, but you are a multi-passionate woman. What does that mean to you, and how does it feel to just be multi-passionate? Because I feel like in the world sometimes, you should only be narrowed down to this one thing or tied down to this one thing. And I consider myself multi-passionate. Sometimes I feel guilty for saying I am multi-passionate. So what does that mean to you, being multi-passionate? And for those listening, give us some advice as far as okay to be that way and not having to sell yourself short because you think you're too much, as they'll put that label on people who have different passions.
Yeah. My goodness, how much time you got? So it just, at its core, all it means is that you're well-rounded. It means that you're intellectually curious about several things, which honestly, that serves you very well in your main career, being intellectually curious about other things, because it makes you relatable. It makes you able to think deeper about a breadth of different topics. That's really what it is, being well-rounded. So for me, I'll take me as an example. So yes, I am an epidemiologist. I do love data and numbers. I'm also a writer. I've been writing since I was a kid. I also am a musician. I've got perfect pitch. I've been taking music lessons, since I was 5. Yeah, I enjoy cooking. I wouldn't say I'm chef level yet, but I do enjoy cooking, and I do take that seriously. I'm just
going to stop her right there, because the pictures that she posts, she is, she's giving these chefs a run for their money. But anyway, carry on.
It's just a matter of, and then of course, on top of that, I love to read. And so when you like to read, you read a bunch of different topics. And so you're comfortable discussing almost anything with anyone because you have at least a basic understanding of a wide range of topics. And that's really all being multi-passionate is being well-rounded. The easiest way to do that is to be a reader. I mean, that's the tried and true way. That's probably my number one tip, is to be a reader. It sounds simplistic, but it's not. It's that I can go for days on that too, if you want to discuss that.
No, and find other things. Just step outside of, try to venture into other worlds. I think sometimes we tend to lack that. We just this is my world and that's it, and there's no other world that exists. So just try, and you can do that by reading, as Amber just
You
mentioned. You can
can, if you
definitely
can't
do
afford,
that.
yeah.
If you
And if
can't
you
afford
can't
to
afford to
go
travel,
hop on these flights to be and fly out, you read a book. Let me tell
yeah.
you, because I've had some books that has taken me places, and I'm just like, girl.
Same
So
here.
definitely reading definitely will help you. And as you go, Amber, what does mindfulness means to you?
Mindfulness means, to me, it means attacking everything with a clear mind, right? So that
Mm.
means really taking the time to think things through. And so, of course, there's mindfulness like as an exercise, right? So you can do a
Mm.
mindfulness activity on Headspace, and you can practice mindful breathing. There are campaigns now for mindful eating. Really being intentional with what you put into your body and how you chew and how long it takes you to chew, and just all these things, and making sure you don't have the TV on. Like, there are so many things that go into
Taking
being
time to eat,
mindful.
don't rush to eat,
Yes,
all of
correct.
that.
All those.
Yeah.
So mindful living is exactly that. So taking your time to really think things through and not feeling rushed by anyone, by anyone's timeline, not by your timeline, not by distracting thoughts, but just, of course you're
Stop
human. So
stop multitasking.
yeah, stop that too. But just taking time to breathe and think through your, everyday living, your decision making. Quick example, I have had to really get better at mindful living, particularly in the morning.
Mm.
In my early 20s in grad school, I remember I even made a blog post about this. It was a blog post about, your morning routine and how that sets you up for success and all of this. And then once I graduated and I became, a working, woman,
Right.
it was really easy just to, kind of sleep in, and not sleep until like 9 or 10, but, just wake up until it's like, I don't know, 20 minutes before you have to be at work, right? So if you're working at 8 o'clock, you're up at 7:40. And then especially when COVID happened and you're, getting to your desk with your bonnet still on, and
Yes,
it's a
yes.
house. So to me, like, mindful living in the morning means, okay, wake up and actually think, okay, I'm up. Now what? So now it's always, okay, put on your worship music, go wash your face, go, I call it your big three. So wash your face, brush your teeth, put your contacts in, no matter what. Even if you're staying
Mm-hmm.
at home all day, put your contacts in. And then after that, take your vitamins. I used to always skip taking my vitamins, but now
Me
it's
too.
always like, really be intentional by, like, okay, so this is done. Now what? Now what? Now what? And kind of don't
Checking
let,
things off.
yeah, but also like checking in with yourself to make sure you got it done. Because otherwise, you're just mindlessly living, kind of just not thinking about, okay, have I done what I need to do this morning to set me up for success? And that's really what it came down to for me. So mindful living means really just checking in with myself regularly and making sure that I think through every single action I take so that I stay on track. That's really it.
Yeah, and that's similar to me as well. My morning routine, some days it doesn't look the same every day. It looks
Yeah.
pretty similar, but some days, let me tell you, I want to hit that snooze button.
Yep.
And but I've gotten so used to that routine that it's hard for me to even sleep in. Like even on the weekends, like what is sleeping in for me? I don't
Yeah.
even know what that is. But
Yeah.
I'll choose to rest and not overexert myself on the weekends.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
I'm not a sleeping late person. So you
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to have a mindful morning,
Yeah.
mindful living, and of course when it comes to work and your career, definitely not multitask. Like, focus on the task at hand for 45 minutes, 30, whatever may work for you. Then you take a 15-minute break because we're not meant to go nonstop. And I think that's
No,
what
we're not.
I had to learn that in 2022 because I don't know if I was becoming burnt out, but I just couldn't sleep. Like
Yeah.
I was always on one 24/7, and I had
Yes.
to make some changes. That's when I started looking into mindfulness even more. Of course, you do the meditation, the journaling, but also,
Yeah.
like you said, it comes down to mindful eating, even with working out, even with
Yes.
having a routine for both the morning and the night. Sometimes my night routine sometimes is a little bit weird. Sometimes it just we
Oh,
have our
yeah.
moments,
Yeah, we do.
but it's definitely making sure that I'm disciplined, and I think that's what it comes down to. So you hear
Yeah.
mindfulness and we got to do meditation. You can do all that, whatever way work for you, but find a routine and find something that's going to uplift you and make you feel good. So I think that's the end of the day. That's what it comes down to me when it comes to mindfulness. Yes, it's being present, but finding and doing something that's making you feel good. Because when you're
Yes.
not feeling good, then you can't operate as your higher self. So we
No, you
definitely
can't.
want to avoid that. Well, Amber, I want to thank you for joining me. I could be here until tomorrow, until next week, but I'm pretty
Same.
sure I'm going to be sending you a message. Do you want to come back and talk? Because there's so many things we can talk about. We can talk about cycle thinking. We can talk about so
Yes.
many different things, and that's a whole different podcast
Oh, yes.
by itself. So definitely want to thank you for joining me, and of course, let the audience know what you have going on, where they can find you guys. Let me tell you, I don't know if she probably was like, "Girl, what are you doing?" But she is the lit lady.
Yes,
That's my
ma'am.
girl. Definitely, if you're into reading, she has not given me a bad recommendation. I even went back to read another book that you recommended to me the other day. I wanted something quick to read at the end of 2022. And I'm like, let me go back and read this book. But even before I let you say about that, some of the books that you've recommended is the reason why my nonprofit, Scrub Life Cares, is where it's at now. Because, I had the mindset and that growth mindset from the books that you recommended. So thank you. And definitely tell us where we can find you, what you got going on.
Sure thing. Oh, first of all, I need to make you another list.
Yes.
We're long overdue for that. So I'll make that happen for you this year. So I am on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm currently taking a break from Twitter, but I am, she went global on there. It's literally spelled that long way. On Instagram, you can type me in Amber Gabrielle and you'll find me. My reading list company, I create personalized reading lists for people. I'm at The Lit Lady, TheLit Lady, The Lit Lady. That's me. That's about where you can find me. Instagram and Twitter. I'm
And
always
I'll be
on.
sure to put it in the show notes because guys, let me tell you, it'll be one of your favorite follows. The food, the books, the tell it like it is. She's not one of these people on social media that's going to, what should I say, cuddle you, because we need the realness. And that's one of the reasons why I really do like following her as well. And she gives resources for those in public health. So it's just a great follow. Like, we can always say that about everybody else, but she really is a great follow. She has me like my mood board or my list for this year. It's just her. She lives. So like I said, before she has been living life. Okay? Before life was being lived by, she has been living life. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm gonna shut up now. But she has been living life. But I'll definitely link her Instagram and her other social media in the show notes. And definitely thank you for joining me here in my tea tasting room. Finally.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I can't wait to listen to
Yes,
this.
yes, yes.